very passionate towards how we are going to oversight any institution in this country. This institution called COOPS is not exceptional. It's not exceptional. Madam Speaker, students are suffering at home. Parents are suffering at home. Every Kenyan is worried. We have the law, which is very clear. It has not been amended. It cannot be bypassed by a memoranda. Now, Madam Speaker, being a legislator who follows House procedures, the Committee of Health in this House sat, pronounced themselves on this issue within the committee. Once that is done, we are being told that there is somebody else somewhere sitting to overrule the members, the honorable members of that committee. What are we doing in this House? We better all resign and go home and stop spending taxpayers' money for things which cannot happen. Madam Speaker, is the high time the dignity of this House must be maintained whichever divine or political party we come from. We must stand firm and tell the nation that the only institution given mandate either to deal with issues against the law is Parliament. Madam Speaker, the last but not least, this issue of COOPS has been boiling day in, day out. They are placing students who are A material to go and do certificates, to go and do diploma, Madam Speaker. It is a high time we deal with this monster because the most affected people are our students from our constituencies. So, Madam Speaker, this is not an issue whereby we are going to lie low as Parliament. We are going to allow Kenyan students to suffer. You can imagine, Madam Speaker, when a student has worked so hard for 4 years to attain an A or a B and is given an opportunity to go to a institution of higher learning to just go and do a certificate or a diploma. Madam Speaker, I know very well, you passed well in your A levels. Can you imagine it's you being given that opportunity to go and do a certificate? Will you be our Deputy Speaker? Will you be the law who we know? This is an issue of Kenyans, and Kenyans must be protected, and that is a business which we have been brought here by the Kenyan people without no mercy to anybody, and we are not going to relent on this. Let the chair of Health Committee go and call the Secretariat to table that report, and by 5 o'clock we debate it and agree on how to go about it. Kenyans cannot suffer more, Madam Speaker. We have a responsibility as a House to protect the law. We were sworn in this House to protect the law. About memoranda, about anything else, does not supersede the law. The court has pronounced themselves on this issue, Madam Speaker. Let's law take its course in this country, and we move forward as a Parliament. God bless Kenya. God bless the students of Kenya.
Thank you, honorable members. I think the chairperson for the Committee on Health has given an undertaking that he will move with speed to summon those various agencies and the minister. That's why they are going to do it even before they are not going to take a break. They are going to go and deal with it immediately. Okay, I'll pronounce myself on the time frame before we rise on this sitting. Then we'll have heard from the clerk's office what the situation is. Okay, just allow me, honorable members, to recognize students seated in the speaker's gallery. Kothien Secondary School from South Imenti constituency, Meru County. Then Memon Academy Primary School from Vita constituency, Mombasa County. I also wish to recognize students and teachers seated at the public gallery, Mary Immaculate Kitale Primary School, Kwanza constituency, Trans Nzoia County. Sotit Primary School, Konoin constituency, Bomet County. St. Aloys Ajola Primary School, Kisumu West Constituency, Kisumu County. And also, honorable members, I have a communication that just came to the Speaker's desk now. It is an announcement from the Coast Parliamentary Group. They confirmed, honorable members, that they have held elections today as the Coast Parliamentary Group, and the undersigned persons are now their leadership. The patron is the Honorable Owen Bayer, Deputy Majority Leader. The chairperson is Honorable Danson Mwashako Mwakuwona. The vice chair is the Honorable Gertrude Bayu. The Secretary General is the Honorable Kasim Tandaza. The Vice Secretary General is the Honorable Amina Mnyazi. The Treasurer is the Honorable Amina Dika. The Vice Treasurer is the Honorable Githuku Kamau, Senator. The Organizing Secretary is the Honorable Ali Wario. The Deputy Organizing Secretary is Honorable Masood Machele. The Chair, Women Caucus, is Honorable Captain Rueda Obo. And finally, the Whip is the Honorable Ken Chonga. I use this opportunity to congratulate all those who have risen to this leadership position. Thank you. What's your point of order, Honorable Wangwe? Or is it...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My point of order, Honorable Speaker, is on the foregoing discipline in the House. Madam Speaker, I did rise yesterday to raise this issue. And when you are making a communication, Madam Speaker, it's important we grasp and understand what you are communicating to us. Whereas you are communicating, Honorable Speaker, our colleagues are walking in, our colleagues are conversing in loud tones. Madam Speaker, it's important you communicate, you make a communication so that we listen to what you are communicating to us so that we implement it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I think those members who are probably upstanding or conversing, unfortunately, I didn't get to spot any of them because I was busy reading. So they, I think they stand guided and corrected. And I think those members who are approaching the majority leader, I'm giving him my protection. Honorable Moroto, give him a break. Okay. All right. I think maybe you are not in your office for them to see you. Okay, honorable members, let's move to the next statement, which is a general statement by the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Tourism regarding an inquiry into human-wildlife conflict. Proceed. Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Tourism. Not present, okay. All right, let's move to the next order. The statement, we're already in the next year. No, we're not on the, so okay, you may make your statement, Leader of Majority, since the others are not here.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I have quite a number of statements today. I will begin with my usual Thursday statement. Then I'll go to all the others, including Kera. There was also the one for the court-martialed Kenyans in Uganda. And the other one is on the university funding. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 22nd August 2023, to prioritize the business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, I wish to commend the leadership of this House and members for the dedication and cooperation exhibited in the session so far. We have certainly been able to meet the set timelines in respect of all matters that were before us. We are now due for the break, commencing after today's session, with the House scheduled to resume its regular sittings on Tuesday, 26 September 2023 at 2:30 p.m., going by our calendar. Honorable Speaker, upon resumption,
Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from the interactions here because they are too disruptive.
Honorable members, the majority leader is actually making very important statement to tell us the proceedings that will ensue after recess.
In front of my eyes, Honorable Speaker. There are rooms, Honorable Speaker, at the back where members can consult. Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker was saying, upon resumption, the House is expected to continue with debate on second reading of the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2022. The House will also debate the following motions, should they not be concluded today. Report of the Kenyan delegation to the 146th Assembly of the Interparliamentary Union IPU and related meetings. Report of the 4th General Assembly of the Eastern Africa Parliamentary Alliance for Food Security and Nutrition, EAPA, FSN. Reports on the inspection of various one-stop border posts in the Northern Corridor in the Eastern African Community Region. Report on employment diversity audit in public institutions. 5, consideration of the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the National Government Constituency Development Fund for 12 constituencies in Kakamega County. And 6, probable loss of investments in Cyton High Yields Solutions platform. Honorable Speaker, I also note that question time in the plenary has proceeded well as Cabinet Secretaries appear to answer questions and expound on policies under their respective dockets. I would like to thank members for their continued participation in this process. Upon resumption of the House and in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A, 5 and 6, I wish to convey that the following Cabinet Secretaries are scheduled to appear before the House on the afternoon of Wednesday, 27 September 2023, to respond to questions as follows. The Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage to respond to the following questions. Question number 228 of 2023 by the member for Ganze, Honorable Kenneth Kazungu, MP, regarding containment of elephant herds, that have been a menace to residents of Mwahera Jira and Mrima Wandege in Ganze constituency. Question number 320 of 2023 by the member for Wajir East, Honorable Aden Daoud, MP, regarding oversight of the Tourism Promotion Fund Board. Question number 321 of 2023 by the member for West Pokot County, Honorable Rael Kasiwai, MP, regarding rehabilitation and preservation of the Kapenguria Museum. Question number 322 of 2023 by the member for Mandera South, Honorable Abdul Haro, MP, regarding the steps taken by the ministry to mitigate human-wildlife conflict in Mandera South constituency. Question number 323 of 2023 by the member for Samburu County, Honorable Pauline Languris, MP, regarding a compensation of families and residents in Samburu County killed by wild animals and destruction of their property. Question number 324 of 2023 by the member for Nyandarua County, Honorable Faith Getao, MP, regarding the human-wildlife conflict cases at Mukindu in Ol Kalau constituency. And question number 325 of 2023 by the member for West Pokot County, Honorable Rael Kasiwai, MP, regarding settlement of approved compensation claims in Nasolot Game Reserve. 2, the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning to respond to the following questions. Question by private notice number 010 of 2023 by the member for Turkana South, Honorable John Ariko, MP, regarding unlawful dismissal of revenue as service assistance. Question number 150 of 223 by the member for Kandui, Honorable John Makali, MP, regarding the current annual status of the balance sheet of Nzoia Sugar Company. Question number 151 of 2023 by the member for Madare, Honorable Anthony Oluoch, MP, regarding arrears owed to political parties in financial year 2016-2017 and 2022-2023. Question number 153 of 2023 by the member for Kiambu, Honorable Mashua Waithaka, MP, regarding the decline in US dollar reserves in the country. Question number 215 of 2023 by the member for Gunja, Honorable Pio Wandai, CBS, MP, Leader of Minority, regarding delay in disbursement of the equitable revenue share to counties. Question number 216 by the member for Tiati, Honorable William Kamket, MP, regarding the impact that de-dollarization by countries such as China, Brazil, Russia, India, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia may have on Kenya's economy. Question number 217 of 2023 by the member for Wajir East, Honorable Aden Daoud, MP, regarding non-disclosure of merchants' fees and penalties charged on credit/debit cards. Question number 294 of 2023 by the member for Awendo, Honorable John Owino, MP, regarding proposed privatization plan which includes the sale of South Nyanza Sugar Company nuclear land. Question number 295 of 2023 by the member for Balambala, Honorable Abdi Shuria, MP, regarding refusal of cash payments by certain business establishments. Question number 296 of 2023 by the member for Katundu South, Honorable Gabriel Kagombe, MP, regarding delayed disbursement of funds to the National Youth Service. Question number 297 of 2023 by the member for Madhioya, Honorable Edwin Mogo, MP, regarding recruitment of revenue service assistants by KRA. Question number 354 of 2023 by the member for Dagoretti North, Honorable Beatrice Elachi, MP, regarding the impact of import fees levied on raw materials under the crops, nuts and oil crops regulations of 2020. And lastly, question number 356 of 2023 by the nominated member, Honorable Dorothy Ikiara, MP, regarding delay in payment of pension to retired teachers. Honorable Speaker, the House Business 3 to schedule business for the rest of the week. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, as we proceed for the long recess, it is important to note that in case we now have time over this recess to engage in public participation exercises over our proposals for the next financial year. Honorable Speaker, with your permission, I can proceed to the statement from the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Relations, Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Alfred Mutua, EGH, on the court-martialing and conviction of certain Kenyans in the Republic of Uganda. Rather a long one, Honorable Speaker, 3 pages also.
No, you may proceed. I think it would be unfair not to read it in full. I think read it in full. I don't think you have authority to edit the Cabinet Secretary's document.
Well, he has started with a huge background, Honorable Speaker. And he says in March 2022, 8 Turkana herders were arrested in Kotido in the Karamoja area on suspicion of killing, guilty of possessing weapons at a court-martial in Moroto in April 2022, and sentenced to 20 years to arrest the perpetrators of the killing of the 3 geologists and the 2 Ugandan soldiers, but this has not yet been actualized by the Kenyan side. It should be highlighted that while Kenyan authorities have made steps to recover and return firearms stolen from Ugandan security forces, they have yet to apprehend the perpetrators of the killings. On 8 April 2023, the UPDF conducted a cordon and search operation within Turkana kraals in the areas of Lokiriaut, Rupa, and Naput in Moroto districts, and seized 27 AK-47 rifles, 1 self-loading rifle, SLR, as well as 751 rounds of ammunition, 32 magazines, 3 sets of UPDF uniform, and 19 bows and arrows. Consequently, 32 Turkana herdsmen were arrested and brought to Moroto barracks to face court-martial for the offense of possession of illegal firearms. All 32 suspects were rushed through a court-martial process on 11 April 2023 and sentenced to 10 years for each of the 2 counts of illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. An important point to note is that any civilian found in possession of illicit firearms is subject to court-martial under Ugandan law. Specifically, the Uganda People's Defense Forces UPDF Act, because the government deems them to be combatants. Government interventions. On 20th February 2023, a delegation from Kenya led by Ms. Rebecca Miano the Cabinet Secretary for East African Community, Arid and Semi-Arid Lands and Regional Development arrived in Moroto, Uganda, to negotiate the release of the Turkana herders with a delegation from Uganda led by General Salim Saleh. The matter escalated when His Excellency President Museveni responded by issuing a directive on March 3rd, 2023, stating unequivocally that the problem of the geologist's murder must be addressed before Uganda discusses the issue of amnesty and release of the Kenyan detainees. This was followed by Executive Order number 3 of 2023, issued on May 18, 2023, which, among other things, gave Kenya 6 months to answer to the matter of the geologist's murder. Otherwise, Turkanas would not be allowed to graze in Uganda. President Museveni also spotlighted Uganda's strategic plan to end nomadism and was interested in knowing the plan on the Kenyan side, as well as how long Kenya expects Uganda to allow Turkanas to graze in Uganda. Consular services extended. On the 24th June 2023, the Kenya High Commission in Kampala, through the KDF liaison office in Moroto, arranged for a team of Turkana leaders, led by Honorable Imana, and 2 KDF liaison officers to visit the inmates. The team went to Jinja Main Prison and Kitalia Maximum Prison, where the Turkana herders are incarcerated. All the inmates were found to be in good health. They were, however, requested to be relocated to a warmer place, and one that is more accommodating to Kenyan inmates in terms of language, such as Moroto Prison. The mission made the request to the Ugandan government and is still awaiting a response, but is actively following up. The Kenya High Commission in Uganda made consular visits to Murchison Bay Prison on 3rd July 2023 and Jinja Main Prison on 10th July 2023, and distributed basic supplies not only to Turkanas, but also other Kenyans in the 2 jails. The Turkana County government leadership has hired a lawyer in Kampala and filed an appeal in the matter on 20th April 2023 through Ms. Asingwire and Kakuru Advocates. The appeal lodged within the 14-day window of appeal was filed to the General Court Martial at Makindye, which is the only available avenue to appeal under Ugandan law. The court is yet to respond on the hearing date, but the advocate is pursuing the matter. Another appeal was lodged through the prison internal mechanism, but was filed late. The Kenya High Commission in Kampala is in contact with the welfare officers of each of the prisons where the herders are being held, and will continue to arrange for relatives and Turkana leaders to visit the incarcerated individuals, as well as to provide consular services to all Kenyans in various Ugandan prisons in accordance with the protocols of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Uganda. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, on January 18, 2018, Kenya and Uganda signed an MOU on a cross-border program for sustainable peace and development to encourage the closer interaction between the border communities of Turkana and Pokot in Kenya and Karamoja in Uganda. The MOU also aims to combat the illegal flow of small arms and light weapons in the region. This framework is what allows Kenyans to cross over to Uganda in order to access grazing areas and watering points. However, Uganda expressly forbids Kenyans to cross over with weapons. Currently, the case of the Turkana herders is being escalated to the highest level of the executive of both countries. His Excellency President Museveni has given conditions for amnesty discussions. The first condition is that Kenya arrests those who killed the 3 Ugandan geologists and the 2 UPDF soldiers. In the event that this is not accomplished, His Excellency President Museveni has asked Kenya to make reparations to the families of those deceased before any deliberations on amnesty for the detained Kenyans can commence. Last, Honorable Speaker, Kenya's top leadership is seized of the matter and has asked for its speedy resolution. Dr. Alfred N. Mutua, EGH Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs, has been in contact with his Ugandan counterpart, and a physical meeting will be organized in full appreciation of the urgency and severity of the matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. That is a response on the issue of the incarcerated Ugandans. Please allow so that I take a glass of water.
Yes, Leader of Majority, and then I'll come to you.
Let me thank you, Madam Speaker, and the Leader of Majority for that elaborate statement. I just have one concern. It would appear that we are getting into these talks with Uganda from a very weak position as a country, because what we are hearing are just ultimatum after ultimatum, condition after condition. In fact, what is worrying me is the condition that Kenya must produce those who killed the 3 geologists and 2 UPDF soldiers. It's as if Kenyans, the Kenyan government and the Uganda government know the identity of those purported killers. It would appear so. But more importantly, how do you link the purported killers of these 5 persons to the persons who have been court-martialed and are now languishing in a jail in Jinja? What is the connection? How do you make the apprehension of those who killed those 5 fellas with the release of people who are court-martialed on totally different charges? So we are having a problem with that statement, Madam Speaker. And really, I want to plead from the floor of this House that this is a matter that requires the highest possible intervention. And I don't think it is enough just to say that this matter is, that the executive is seized of this matter and so on and so forth. We have had enough of those stories. What we want to see is a more definite action from the part of the Kenyan state. Because it's as if we have got nothing else we can hold Uganda to. And yet we know, as neighboring countries, we need each other. So as if Uganda is doing us a favor. But by releasing those whom we believe are wrongfully in custody or in prison. Why can't they release those Turkana herders first, if they really want genuine discussions, and then plead with the authorities in Kenya to look for these fellows who killed the 5 gentlemen or men or women? I'm not sure who they were. Okay? So I think it's a problem with this statement. This statement does not address the issues that were raised by the Honorable Akuja. I can't see him today. Is Akuja there? I can't see him, and I don't think this statement is satisfactory. I would rather suggest that, Madam Speaker, you order the person who has authored the statement to go beyond what he is saying. Thank you.
Honorable person, Honorable Ounda.
Honorable Speaker, the statement read by the Majority Leader evokes some very sad memories for those of us who live on the border between Uganda and Kenya. We are constrained because of the standing order and the law not to discuss adversely the behavior of a foreign or friendly country, but would have very, very unkind words about the behavior and action of the soldiers and the Ugandan government as a whole. Honorable Speaker, indeed using innocent people or innocent herders as a bait for people purported to have committed heinous crime is an act of abuse of human rights. Honorable Speaker, indeed, as a minority leader has clearly stated, the response seems to be so cowardly, you would imagine that Kenya is subservient, is afraid of the government of Uganda. We need to act decisively because we have got economic power, we have got military power beyond what Ugandan can do. Honorable Speaker, in the ordering of things, our legal system is far much superior compared to Ugandan system, and therefore releasing our members to go and get tried in a ragtag country, proper judicial system like that of Uganda, is actually demeaning the status of the country called Kenya. Honorable Speaker, as I stand today, about 3 weeks ago, the Ugandan soldiers invaded all the way to Busembe Beach and Bumbe Beach within the waters of Kenya and grabbed innocent fishermen and took them to Uganda. Honorable Speaker, it has been damn expensive going to get these Kenyans who have been unlawfully arrested and incarcerated in jails in Uganda to bring them back to Kenya. Honorable Speaker, there are harrowing stories, how they're beaten on the stomach, how they're forced to eat raw fish, and those kind of harrowing stories we cannot allow our people. I think it has gotten time that the leadership that be, the one that hold the levers in the executive, to call the Ugandan government to order so that we live together as friendly neighbors instead of being looked as if we have no mighty to address these challenges. I sincerely believe and hope that the cabinet secretary in charge of foreign affairs and all those in charge of, security take serious action in respect of this matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Turkana East. The mic is further to your right.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this issue, which it has been discussed after being brought by Honorable Akuja. Madam Speaker, according to the report by our majority leader this afternoon, Madam Speaker, according to the report and the condition given by the Ugandan government, Madam Speaker, it looks like the Uganda government, they know these Turkana herdsmen, they are innocent. The president himself says he's giving our country a demand that if our country will bring the killers of the 5 Kenyan Ugandan citizens, these Turkana herders will be released. This looks like the Ugandan government, they have no case on these herders, and they are just trying to retain them just because they were found in their country, raising their livestock. Madam Speaker, it is good for our country now to take this thing seriously, because according to the statement, those who killed the 5 Ugandans, it seems the Ugandans government know them. And this incident happened in Uganda. Why is Uganda giving the Kenyan government condition that they need to bring the 5 killers? And yet, they know that this thing happened in their country, and they know how it happened. Madam Speaker, it happened one time, one delegation which went to Uganda over the same issue. I was among the delegates who went to Uganda at that time. The place where these others were and where the 5 Ugandans were killed, it was far away. So they need to differentiate between the 2 incidents of these others being caught with their guns and the issue of the killing of the 5 Ugandans. Madam Speaker, this is a different story. Our country needs to take it seriously, because we cannot just leave it the way it is, where we are being given a condition, the condition which it has no truth in it. The way you can look at it, and we need to provide these 5, the killers of the 5 Ugandans. How? This thing happened in Uganda. The Turkana others, they were far away from where the incident took place. I went there personally. And we really had to talk to those guys, the officers from the Ugandan side. And it seems like there was no truth in it. And from that day, they were even worried about where these guys they were caught. Because we argued with them, and it reached a point whereby there were people, they were innocent. So there were liaison officer in Uganda, our KDF liaison officer in Uganda, must also tell the government the truth, how this thing happened, where the place of the incident, and where these others they were grazing their livestock. Because the issue of carrying of the guns to Uganda Our people, they are being raided in Uganda in the name of they are bringing guns to Uganda. Where are the guns which raid our people in Uganda comes from? If the government of Uganda, they are saying people in their country, they don't carry guns. Madam Speaker, this thing must be looked in a different way. We cannot leave this matter and our people, they are dying in those cells without being given justice. We need our people to be given justice, to be taken to the court of law, so that they can be tried to be found guilty or not. Because the way they were taken there, nobody has found them guilty. They were just taken from the barracks to the cells. And nobody knows even if they went in through any justice in their country. So we need this thing to be followed up, not just leave it the way the report is being given around, given by the majority leader. Those who are concerned, our liaison officer in Uganda, our Foreign Affairs Office, and the East African Office, they must follow up this thing so that we can bring this justice to these Turkana people who are in Uganda. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I think we can bring this matter to a close because it's already been marked to the Security Committee. Honorable Kangogo, I'll just give you one last chance. Yeah. If you can keep it in under 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this issue of the Kenyans who are court-martialed in Uganda, Madam Speaker, it's very sad. Because the Kenya and Uganda, they have enjoyed a cordial relationship for many years. Madam Speaker, when Uganda were in troubles during the time of Amin, all of them, they were here in Kenya, including Museveni himself. Madam Speaker, if it can reach at such an hour that the President Museveni can give a condition that for Kenyans to be released, the certain condition must be made. Madam Speaker, I think we need to take this matter very seriously. Madam Speaker, in Migingo Highlands and all the Lake region, there are many Kenyans who've been killed by Uganda soldiers. There has been many questions the members of parliament from those regions, they have raised in this house that Kenyans are killed by Ugandan soldiers. I don't know why then our president has not given out a condition that to Museveni that before a negotiation and even any diplomatic relationship between Kenya and Uganda, the UDF soldiers must, those who have killed Kenyan fishermen, must be arrested. So I think, Madam Speaker, the way this matter is going is going to bring a serious conflict between Kenyans and the Ugandans, especially at the border areas. You heard from the members of Turkana saying that they are local pastoralists. They don't know the boundaries, including the animals. They don't know the boundary between Kenya and Uganda. And again, Madam Speaker, even if there was a crime committed by the Kenyans, the Turkanas, they should be taken through the normal judicial system. They should have a right to access a lawyer, to be given a lawyer, and also to present their case. Madam Speaker, if it is true that President Museveni gave these conditions, then as members of parliament who represent Kenyans, we are also seeking that our president also must take up this issue, discuss it with the President Museveni, so that we can have the innocent Kenyans. There might be some few, 2 or 3 criminals, which we cannot deny, but not to court-martial the entire almost 50 Kenyans in the name of they were carrying guns. Madam Speaker, and like the way the members of Turkana say that our porous borders of Turkana to Ethiopia and Uganda and all those other areas, even as we discuss these issues, Madam Speaker, we need to address the issue of security at the borders between the Turkana County and the neighbors. So that also, we are now leaving this matter to Turkana members of parliament and the Turkana community to say, fight for yourself, when we have a functioning government. So, Madam Speaker, we will ask the leader of majority to go back to the drawing board and also take it to the Foreign Affairs and also to the President to intervene for the Turkanas and the Kenyans who are court-martialed in Uganda to be returned back to the country.
Okay, I'll just indulge you, Honorable Pukose, and then we... Yes, what's your point of order, Majority Leader?
Honorable Speaker, you know this is a very sensitive matter because it involves the head of state of a friendly country and also involves diplomatic channels of a friendly country and a neighbor. I would really plead, Honorable Speaker, that we now limit the sort of things that we are saying in relation to this matter, and because it is bound now to get to levels where we will start discussing, from the way the debate is going, a president of a friendly state. Honorable Speaker, I think the statement was quite clear from the minister of the charges leveled against the Kenyans. They have not been charged with killing anybody. They have been charged with possession of firearms and made it clear that under the Ugandan law, specifically the UPDF Act, you are considered to be an armed combatant if you are arrested with a firearm. Therefore, as to the innocence or guilt of the Kenyans incarcerated, I think we should leave it to competent courts in Uganda for review of their court case. Two, Honorable Speaker, since the minister has already indicated that this matter is already at the highest level between His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni and our president and the two ministries, I think it's only be fair that we do not now start getting into the arena of discussing either of the presidents or the ministers or our laws versus the Ugandan laws, because we have our own laws. Uganda have their own laws. So it's only fair, Honorable Speaker, I would beg your indulgence that we, if anything, we should just ask the minister to update the House probably when we resume from recess. What he's saying, they're already engaging, they engage, and he comes to update the House on progress so far. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I felt that we are now verging on very dicey ground, the way the debate, the comments were going.
I'll give the final chance to Honorable Pukose.
Madam Speaker, NDB's constituency neighbors Uganda, and Uganda is a good neighbor. And this issue about members of the Turkana community, you know, members of Turkana and Karamoja are the same community. And we should not sugarcoat, Madam Speaker, that people are carrying firearms to a foreign country and think that they were going with good intentions. We are aware that cattle rustlers, bandits, who steal cows on this side will always go to the other side to also steal cows. So I think UPDF, whatever they did, they have always been known to be a force that ensures law and order from the other side. They are my neighbors. And I think we should respect the President of Uganda, General Museveni, with due respect, as a head of state of a neighboring country, and is the grandfather of the East African region. So, Madam Speaker, you might disagree, but for some of us who knows where Uganda has come from and what he has done to make Uganda what it is, we know it is done a good job. Madam Speaker, what I want to say is that, no, I'm a Kenyan and my loyalty is not questionable. But as a neighbor to Museveni's country, I know my people closest to Uganda, they are treated well, and my people do not go with guns. We know how neighbors must live. Neighbors must respect territorial boundaries. You should not carry cans from here or even from Marakwet East and take them to Uganda. You'll be arrested and you'll be court-martialed. So that is not acceptable. Madam Speaker, I think the due law, the due process must take its course. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. I think this matter should be placed before the Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations. Okay. Oh, you haven't completed about Karen.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I'll move on to the next statement from the Ministry of Education on the question of university admissions. And they have addressed the issue of IPRS validation for applicants, parents, and guarantors, saying the system is taking too long to validate IDs and is at times completely down for several hours. Hence, applicants cannot register at the portal in order to proceed with applications. The implication of this, Honorable Speaker, is that identification numbers takes a long time to validate or doesn't validate at all. Hence, applicants can't register at the application portal. Newly acquired ID numbers are also not readily available in the system, hence hindering the application progress. On the intervention, Honorable Speaker, I say that the IPRS is to review their system to try and accommodate the traffic flowing through the portal during this application period. Newly acquired IDs are being updated in the IPRS system from National Registration Bureau. The Ministry of Education has already written to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior, National Administration to address this issue, and they have attached that statement. Honorable Speaker, on the question of undeclared courses at COOPs, the Kenya University and Colleges, Plans and Services by institutions, students who have admission letters with courses that are not declared with COOPs portal, hence cannot be found in the application portal during application. The institutions are to update all courses and their costs with COOPs before Monday, August 28, 2023. On the huge traffic in the application portal, they concur that there is indeed huge traffic in the application portal caused by numerous concurrent applications. The situation has been exacerbated this week because some institutions are due to commence the academic year of 2023-2024, and therefore many students are logging into the system almost at the same time. The ministry is continuously monitoring and adjusting the system for optimal performance to ensure that all students are able to access the system as they log in. On loan application forms, attachments, the difficulty of applicants using varying scanning technology, the difficulty emanates from applicants using varying scanning technologies and formats, leading to difficulties in uploading the documents and inability to complete the applications. Applicants therefore cannot complete the application process of applying for the loans. A standardization software is being implemented to manage the various formats of attachments coming through. Meanwhile, applicants are being redirected to an online tool to assist in the conversion to the right format. Honorable Speaker, they also indicate that there are also incidents of applicants using wrong email addresses, and they are continuously educating the applicants, especially students and parents, on how to deal with this, together with the issue of double registration for some students who are putting in their IDs twice. On the question of to clarify how students under the age of 18 years can access funding in the absence of official identification documents, they say that the students without national identity cards will be required to apply for scholarships and loans with their KCSE index number and birth certificate. Once the student is categorized under the new funding model, the scholarship will be awarded and sent to the university or college, while the HELB loan will be set aside to finance them as soon as they submit their national ID. Universities and colleges have been advised accordingly on the arrangement and are expected to admit the students. Honorable Speaker, what that means from my engagement with the CS is that the issue that was there, that students who are under the age of 18, and they know it is a definite number of about 1,900 and something students, approximately 1,000 students, they will be granted full scholarship in the first year. And subsequently, once they acquire their IDs, because some are turning 18 next year, some later this year, they will be given the HELB loans and they will fund their subsequent years as they review the scholarship bits, depending on your ability. And they have already issued a memo to all our vice chancellors to ensure that no student misses admission on account of being under the age of 18 years. The difficulty with this, Honorable Speaker, is that they cannot get into a contractual arrangement or contractual agreement with minors. And under our laws, unless we are to review, anyone under the age of 18 years is considered to be a minor and therefore cannot get into a contractual agreement for a loan with the Higher Education Loans Board. But upon the attainment of the age of 18, they have committed to award them loans and therefore consequently probably reduce their scholarship bit depending on your ability, since the new funding model is student-centered, as they put it. The father said that the provision of the loan is a contractual, basically that's what I was explaining. The provision of the loan is a contractual arrangement between the Higher Education Loans Board and the student. Since the law does not allow contracts with minors, the loans for those without identity cards will not be disbursed until identity cards are provided. The students falling under this category are approximately 1,000 students. From experience, these students would receive their identity cards within their first year of study. On the issue of clear and easily understood guidelines differentiating the processes for applying for HELB funds and scholarships, they say the application process for scholarships and loans is the same, made on the same portal through the website www.hef.co.ke. The application portal is self-guiding with clear steps and alternatives. Applicants are given the opportunity to apply for a scholarship or a loan or both. The information provided by the applicant is broadly the same, apart from the fact that loan applicants will require 2 guarantors. Honorable Speaker, may I also mention I have a very detailed, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Kangogo has invaded my territory here and disarranged all my papers. A very detailed 48-page document that the CS delivered to the Committee of Education this morning, addressing many of those issues. And I will table this document should any member seek to get information, including steps the ministry is taking in line with what members are asking here. What is it that they are doing for publicity strategies to inform Kenyans through traditional media channels, print, TV, radios, community radio stations, digital channels, bulk SMS to both university and TVET students, online forums, web, even Twitter spaces, mashinani initiatives, churches, chiefs, mosques, Huduma centers and Huduma center cyber cafes. The various strategies they are using to ensure that they disseminate as much information to our students. So it will be good to inform our students back in our constituencies as we go on recess to access this information either from Huduma centers, through the ministry website, other portals of Higher Education Loans Board, and COOPs. All that information is here, and I'll be tabling these documents, Honorable Speaker, for members to be able to get a look at it and disseminate the same information to our constituents, many of whom are voters, even those without identity cards. There are 1,000 students, Honorable Speaker. By the time we get to the next elections, they will be voters. So you'll be serving your voters by disseminating this information to them, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you allow me to move.
What's your point of order, Jared? Honorable Jared?
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We can all recall that I did make a statement yesterday concerning this issue that the majority leader has ably given an explanation on. And Madam Speaker, I can also confirm that the CS Education was here this morning. Members of Parliament attended, of course, under the stewardship of the overarching committee, the Committee on Education. And a raft of issues were addressed, but the most fundamental one, which informed the genesis of my statement yesterday, was how categorization will be done from the 7th of September yet students are expected in college from Monday. And by Monday, Madam Speaker, funds for university education shall not have reached the respective universities, Madam Speaker. The CS Education did make an undertaking that all students, first-year students, will have to report, with or without money, awaiting monies to be sent to their universities. And therefore, I wanted to make that clear to members here who are not present, that no one should be held back at home. The Ministry of Education has made plans to have all students, all first-year students, whether they are medical students attracting 450,000 shillings a year, or art students attracting 158,000 shillings a year, to report to college and start their studies, awaiting categorization and money to be wired to their universities. So at least that takes the burden off the shoulders of members of parliament who have consistently been confronted by these huge circulars from the Ministry of Education that our children will now go to college with or without monies and their studies can take shape. I think that was important for members to know because all these requests are channeled to our offices as members of parliament.
Thank you,
and I thank you,
Honorable
Madam
Jared
Speaker.
Okello. Okay, Honorable Nyamai, the last opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me first start by thanking the Leader of Majority for that statement that he has read from the Cabinet Secretary. Madam Speaker, I attended this morning the committee, the Departmental Committee on Education, after the ruling that was made by the Speaker yesterday. And I must take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to thank the Cabinet Secretary for Education because he ably made a presentation concerning funding for universities. And I think the highlight of his presentation was telling of members of parliament that it doesn't matter whether a student has an identity card or not, or a student does not have or has not been able to go through the application process for funding, that they can walk to their universities on Monday. And Honorable Speaker, I think this was the biggest burden that we had, and I would like to take this opportunity to say that it seems to be a very good opportunity for our learners in the university, that after the teething problems that we have now with the system and also with the new way of applying for financing in the university, that very soon our students will have a smooth way to go to school. So, Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Kenya Kwanza government for keeping the promise, because this is a promise that His Excellency William Samoei Ruto presented to Kenyans when he was campaigning, that he will make it easy for university students to study, and he has done so. So now it has been done, and we thank him, and we are going to support him going forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I think I'll give the last opportunity to the Vice Chairperson for the Education Committee, Honorable Mululu Ijendi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is true, the CS and his team appeared before the Committee of Education today from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Madam Speaker, the CS assured us and the nation at large that those students who have been admitted to university will not miss a chance of being in the university. He also assured us that there are those who have not been able to do the applications for loans, for scholarship, etc., etc. When they get to college, Madam Speaker, he will put up desks where they will be assisted to do the application so as to qualify for whatever they have applied for. Madam Speaker, from where I see it, from where Education Committee is, it appears indeed the panic that has been there among the members and in the nation should not be there, because all the students who have been admitted will get admission into the universities. There are those students also who have been admitted in private universities against their desire. We're also assured that these students have a chance to actually reapply to COOPS so that they can be taken to universities in public as they desire. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, honorable members, permit me to move back to order number 5 and order number 6 so that we can allow the chairperson of special funds accounts. Oh, you haven't done Kara? Okay.
Honorable Speaker, Kera.
Point of order, Honorable Kangogo.
Madam Speaker,
It's
on the
about Kera, we are about to hear.
No, it's not about the Kera, Madam Speaker. Just similar to this report of Ministry of Education. Madam Speaker, there is a problem also under the Chair of Health, the Honorable Bukose, who is here, who is also a cousin to Museveni. Madam Speaker, there is a problem in KMTC, Kenya Medical Training College. Yes. Admissions. Yes. Madam Speaker, the intake in Kenya, no, it is the same because the Kenya Universities and Placement Board, they are now admitting the students for KMTC, Madam Speaker, and yet the KMTC Act has not been repealed.
Honorable Kangogo, that matter has already been canvassed, resolved, and closed. So let us allow Majority Leader to speak about the hot topic of Kera. What's the point of order?
I appreciate the report by the Leader of Majority on education, but I am still wondering. The ministry made a statement that the students will be categorized in terms of extremely needy, vulnerable, and less needy. My question is, or actually what is disturbing me is, what barometer is the ministry going to use to be able to know, to tell this student is highly vulnerable, this one is very needy, this one is less needy, given the fact that whenever people coming from
that matter was also canvassed. Obviously, the honorable member has not had a chance to look at the portal because it's self-declaration on the portal. Proceed,
Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Speaker, in fact, Honorable Speaker, if Honorable Ken Chonga, if he has difficulty in reading, he could consult the Honorable Jared Okello, who was in the Education Committee. The document that I have just tabled for everybody's benefit is 48 pages. It covers all those issues he's talking about. The members who are before the Education Committee this morning will bear me witness that the CS address all those matters. Honorable Speaker, if you allow me to now read the statement on Kera. The above, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Chonga, I think
introduction.
We've already closed that topic and canvassed.
The Constitution of Kenya 2010 assigns the national government responsibility for the construction
Leader,
and maintenance of national trunk roads.
Majority Leader, let's give Honorable Chonga a minute to just say.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to make it very clear.
We are not reopening the matter.
I want to make it very clear in this house that I went to school. I'm a holder of Masters in Business Administration, and I'm doing PhD. So it is actually, it's an insult for the Leader of Majority to claim that if I have a problem of reading, what is it that I need to have for you to be able to know that I went to school? Kindly, Madam Speaker, may the Majority Leader withdraw that statement, because that is a total insult to a Member of Parliament.
Thank you. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I don't know why the Honorable Ken Chonga is getting so irritated. And I only said, if he has difficulty in reading this report, now he's telling me he's doing a PhD. How do you do a PhD? How do you do a PhD? You can only be attending classes, my friend, or studying for your PhD. You do not do a PhD. Honorable Speaker, But maybe I know Honorable Ken Jonga being from Kilifi was probably translating it from Swahili. Ninafanya degree ya PhD. Lakini kwa lugha ya Kimombo huwezi sema I am doing. You can't do PhD. How? Honorable Speaker, now if you allow me to read, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 assigns the national government responsibility for construction and maintenance of national trunk roads, while county governments are assigned the responsibility for county roads. County governments became beneficiaries of the Road Maintenance Levy Fund, RMLF, conditional grant from 2015-2016 financial year based on the County Allocation of Revenue Act 2015. Kenya Roads Board therefore allocated 15% of RMLF as a conditional grant to the county governments for 6 years, from 2015-2016 to 2020-2021. Effective financial year 2021-2022, the maintenance of county roads was incorporated into the equitable revenue share. The 9th National and County Governments Coordinating Summit held in February 2023 in Naivasha resolved that the RMLF allocation to the counties would be given consideration in the financial year 2024-2025 through a restructured process. To effect the resolution of the summit, Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee convened a meeting on 8th August 2023 at the Kenya School of Government, where the road sector was expected to, 1, restructure the KRB Act or the RMLF Act to include allocations to the county government. 2, review the road classification to align with the restructured act. The discussion of the meeting was not concluded, and the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee was advised to convene a stakeholders meeting involving the Council of Governors, CRA, and the Ministry of Roads, Transport and Infrastructure, and its affiliated agencies to discuss the above matter further. Projected funding ceilings for KERA for the financial 2024-2025 and 2025-2026, which is the crux of the matter, Honorable Speaker. The Minister says that Section 19 of the KRB Act 1999 requires the board to communicate to the road agencies at least a year in advance on the funding likely to be available for allocation in the coming year. Every road agency is then required to submit to the board an annual roads program. The board is further required, in accordance with Section 35(2)A of the Act, to submit a collated annual roads maintenance program of the road agencies to Parliament for approval. To ensure compliance with the tight budget requirements under the KRB Act, the board issued projected funding ceilings to KERA in July 2023, as shown in the table below. I don't need to go through the details, but the total allocation per constituency for the financial 2024-2025 was projected to be 42,375,228.85. to 28.85. For the financial year 2025-2026, it was projected to come to 44,224,042 shillings, 0.95. The ceilings issued to KERA were based on the assumption that county governments shall receive 15% of the RMLF effective financial year 24-25, in line with the resolution of the 9th summit. It was noted that in the 6 financial years, 2015-2016 to 2020-2021, that counties receive 15% RMLF in accordance with the County Allocation of Revenue Act. KERA and KURA were allocated 21.8% and 10.2% respectively on a prorated basis. Noting that the road network administered under these 2 road agencies are within counties, both KERA and KURA have included county roads in their annual roads work programs. Kenya Roads KRBF allocation to KERA for the financial 2024-2025 option 2. The board shall be guided by the resolution of Parliament as to whether county governments shall receive RMLF funding in the financial 2024-2025 for maintenance of county roads. In the event otherwise, the ceilings to KERA shall be revised upwards as per table 2 below. Again, I don't need to go through the table, Honorable Speaker, but the total allocation per constituency for the financial year 2024-2025 shall be 69,060,575.4. For For the financial year 2025-2026 shall be 72,060,000 shillings, 895.03. If the ceilings are issued based on Table 2 above, the county governments become beneficiaries of RMLF, then KERA will have pending bills since works would have been procured. Conclusion, the lower ceilings issued to KERA was made under caution to safeguard the authority from early procurement of works and the resulting pending bills that may arise if county governments are funded. The Ministry of Roads and Transport and the Kenya Roads Board shall be guided accordingly and appropriately by Parliament on this matter. Honorable Speaker, the import of that statement is that, and from my engagement with the CS Kipchumba Murkomen, the memo that was sent to the regional managers was cautionary, that because the summit, there are the ongoing discussions between the summit, the Council of Governors, CRA, and the ministry to incorporate the county government, all our county governments into RMLF, which would mean that less money then comes to your constituencies under KERA as per the table that is in Schedule 1 of this letter from the CS, and which is what was already communicated to the regional managers. However, the law is the law. And I have told the minister, the law as it stands, it's that KERA gets 22%, that's the 21.8, and 10.2%. And that is the law as it stands. Until and unless Parliament amends that law, the schedule must remain as per Schedule 2 in this letter. The 69 million and 72 million for the next financial year, the year 25-26. Therefore, honorable members, the matter will be coming before you. It will be up to you to make the decision as to whether you want to share the RMLF with the counties who are already getting it as part of their shareable revenue. You are also constituents in counties. You know whether the county governments are doing very well in maintenance of county roads. Your constituents know, and therefore you shall make an informed decision. When this matter comes, the minister says they are still in active engagements, but I have cautioned the minister that he must not act until and unless the law is changed, because the law is clear, and I think they're also cognizant of that. So they're only saying they had issued that so that as you plan, and it is a principle in accounting. I was looking for CPA John Buddy. I don't know if CPA Julius Ruto is here. CPA Ruto is also not here. But those who are accountants like myself will tell you there is an accounting principle called the principle of prudence, that you must be prudent when you plan, as you do your budget planning. So they are simply trying to apply that prudence, looking at the best or worst case scenario, that should the law change, this is what you plan for in the next financial year. I am not saying the law, I'm saying should the law change. Honorable members, as to whether the law changes or not, is not my calling. It is not the ministers. It is up to those who make laws and those who appropriate budgets. And you all know who are the makers of the law, who are the appropriators of resources. Therefore, this matter is squarely in your hands. Honorable Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. Honorable members, allow me to recognize, seated in the public gallery, the following schools: King Hill Academy Primary School from Kabarnet constituency, Baringo County. Elangata Ekima Primary School from Kajiado South constituency, Kajiado County. Mansuk S. Patel Primary School, Rongai constituency, Nakuru County. And also seated in the Speaker's Gallery is Al-Kahir Royal Primary School from Vita constituency, Mombasa County. And lastly, seated in the public gallery, Chebulbul Primary School from Keio South, Elgeyo Marakwet County. And now, honorable members, allow me to move back to order number 5 and 6. You want to speak about this issue? Okay. All right, let me give Honorable T.J. Kajwang, and then I'll give Honorable Martin Owino.
Madam Speaker, you know that there is a lot of interest in this matter because it concerns constituencies, and that is the reason we are here. If it were not for our constituents, we would not be here. Madam Leader has read a statement which is clear, but he has talked about the principle in accounts called prudence. I do not know what that means because I did not go to accounting school. But you and I, we know the principle called without prejudice. If you read that letter done by the agency and supervised by the CS, who himself is a lawyer, the letter does not have any reservation, does not say that we are writing it on cautionary basis, does not say that it is on without prejudice, does not say that we are taking abundant caution. Now, when the majority leader says some of the things he says, of course he's being a good advocate for this agency. I, with a lot of respect, ask that this letter, this statement, be recommended to the Transport and Infrastructure Committee to grill it some more. We want to know who did this letter, who thought about it, which meeting it is, because it is our duty to remove, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I just wished yes, she's being advised, that's why yes. Madam Speaker, just wanted to say that it is part of our mandate under 94, 95, and 96 to remove a state officer who violates the law, knowingly. So this person who is changing the law with a letter not on a without prejudice basis, we want to know whom he is so that we can deal with him appropriately in this house. Even before we go into those issues of counties or whatever, who is this changing the law? Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Well, Martin Owino first, or you want to just respond quickly? Okay. Members, we have a petition that's starting at 5, so we want to at least get one business on the sugar bill, hence the urgency. And I know the sugar bill is also a hot potato. So I think we have to choose between Kera and the sugar bill.
Honorable Speaker, you know, I am an accountant and an economist. I never have pretended to be a lawyer, so I do not know whether this letter was without prejudice or with caution, but at least I can read that there is the word caution. On the last page, he says that the lower ceilings issued to Kera was made under caution to safeguard the authority from early procurement of works and the resulting pending bills that may arise if county governments are funded. Honorable Speaker, the Chair, Transport and Infrastructure is not here, but he has just sent me a message just that the new KRB Act requires Parliament through the Transport and Infrastructure Committee to approve all RMLF programs proposed by the 3 agencies, so any allocation to counties will complicate the exercise. KRB, or rather, Honorable Speaker, I wanted to confirm to what the Honorable Member for Waraka is saying, that the Chair, Transport and Infrastructure is well seized of this matter and is a member of Parliament, the chair of the committee. And the 15 members who sit in that committee are seized of this matter. This letter is now property of the House, and they should be able now to pick it up from here, because all that the Speaker had directed was for me to ask for a quick statement from the ministry, which has now come. That is all I have delivered, Honorable Speaker. And I was begging that since the minister is available, the committee should be able to summon him. If they are not satisfied, you have your Wednesday afternoons. You can summon the minister here. If he does not comply with what the law says, you are the members of parliament who oversight the executive. You shall know what to do with my good friend Kipchumba Murkomen if he fails to comply with the law. But I think he's also exercised abundant caution in saying that he will be guided by what parliament resolves. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I think we can leave the matter to the committee to deal with.
Honorable members, I want to seek your indulgence. Since this matter will go to the committee and still come back to the House, you'll have opportunity to interrogate it. And since the committee has said that the minister shall appear to be able to answer those questions, allow us to move to the main business. But just before that, I will quickly get, I think in less than 5 minutes, go back to Order 5 and Order 6, just to allow the chairperson, Special Funds Accounts Committee wasn't there earlier, to quickly lay the paper on the House table of that, and then also immediately move your notice of motion in that sequence. Then we can move to the next order on the sugar bill, which I know members are interested in.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, 24th August 2023. Second report on the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of Auditors General on the financial statement for the Parliamentary Mortgage Scheme Fund, Parliamentary Car Loan Scheme Fund, and Parliamentary Catering Fund for the financial year 2020-2021 and 2021-2022. And the third report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement for the Local Authorities Provident Fund for the year 2019-2020 to 2020-2021, 2022 financial years. Notice of motion. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Parliamentary Mortgage Scheme Fund, Parliamentary Car Loan Fund, Parliamentary Car Loan Fund, and the Parliamentary Catering Fund for the year 2020, 2021, and 2021, 2022, laid on the table of this House on the Thursday, 23rd August 2023. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement for the Local Authorities Provident Fund for the financial year 2019-2020 to 2021-2022, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 23rd August 2023. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Next order, we can go back to Order 8.
Order number 8, the Sugar Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2022, second reading, resumption of debate.
Honorable members, I think we had a balance of time, and was there any member pending?
Yes, 4 minutes.
Okay, Honorable Mwangi Kiunjuri had 4 minutes left. If he's not here, we'll start with the members of the committee, because there are many people who are interested. The Honorable David Kiplagat.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I wish to support the sugar bill. As member of the Agriculture Committee, if there is a bill we have done justice to, is the sugar bill. Maybe just to bring members to speed, is that we were able to engage all the stakeholders in the sugar industry. We engaged the millers, we engaged the businessmen, we engaged the farmers, and we made sure we travel all parts of Kenya that are engaged in sugar farming, from Ramisi in Mombasa, Mumias, Busia, Chemelil, all the way to Transmara. And the rallying call was, there is need for a radical surgery when it comes to the sugar industry. Sugar industry is ailing. Currently, as the situation is like cancerous one, where you get all the public companies, that is the Mumias, the Chemelil, the Moroni, the Miwani, all of them have collapsed. In fact, it was sad when we were engaged in the Miwani, the only available asset for that factory is the land itself. And even that land was even more emotive because the farmers there were saying that if it has reached a case whereby the industry is not able to work, then that land should be subdivided to the locals. So the biggest issue affecting the sugar industry, one is on the issue of productivity. You know, currently all the factories are closed for purposes of to allow the sugar to mature. But if you look at the majority aspect, if you go to, Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to prosecute this motion by ordering Honorable Okello to resume his seat. He is a member to my committee, and I am contributing, and he is busy disturbing. Now, if you go to countries that we are currently importing sugar from, that is Brazil, the maturity period of their sugar is 12 months. If you come to Kenya, the maturity period is from 18 to 24 months. So there is need to increase productivity by getting the right breed, by getting the right variety, which can be able to mature within 12 months, so that at least we don't have issues of closing our sugar. The government also need to look at the factories that are owned by government. I think what the lesson that we are learning from these factories that are owned by government is not a very good businessman. So there is need to have strategic partners who can be able to run those industries to productivity. The other thing we saw is that for us to be able to give breath of life to the sugar industry, there is need to introduce the sugar development levy, and that is where the rubber meets the road. On the sugar development levy, I think some members, especially who are coming from the sugar belt, might be asking why the 4%. The 4% is as a result of the protocols we have entered with the COMESA, where all the sugar, the imported and the ones that are milled in this country, all of them, if there's a levy, they need to be given the same percentage. And that is why, as a committee, we proposed that the 4%, and that 4% actually goes to assist the sugar industry. About 15% will be allocated for maintaining our factories. In terms of research and training, which will actually make sure that at least we have a variety that can be early maturing, that is the 12 months, we are allocating 15% to the Research and Training Institute. Now, when it comes to the most important, that is the cane development, we have allocated 40% to make sure that at least our farmers can have a source of credit where they can be able to develop the industry. Another very important is the board. The sugar board, which will be regulating the sugar industry, we have allocated 15%. We also have the issues of roads and the infrastructure in general. That one we have allocated 10%, but we have said that money the counties are not going to touch. It will be managed by KERA, and then the leaders within those belts can be able to decide which roads they are going to be made through that point. Then we also need to build democracy and advocacy within the sugar industry, and that is why we have said 5% will go to farmers' advocacy groups so that they can be able to have money to be able to propagate their issues. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, on the issue of the sugar bill, this is one of the bills that is going to have a radical change within the Western, the Nyanza, the Coast region, and some places in and some places in Rift Valley. So, for those few remarks, I urge members, let us discuss, let us debate this bill, but at the end of the day, we have done justice to the bill. We call upon all the members of this House to support the bill so that we can be able to expedite it, which can now move to the Senate for purposes of ensuring at least we have sanity in the sugar industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Honorable members, the sugar bill has attracted a lot of interest, and therefore the screen is full. I really want to ask you to be magnanimous enough to limit yourselves, if you can, so that more members can speak. Remember that at exactly 5:30 we shall adjourn, because adjournment motion. Let me give this next chance to the leader of minority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to be very, very brief. Mr. Speaker, I've had a chance to go through this bill in detail. And let me start by saying that the initiator of this bill, I was in this house, in that parliament, when AFA was created. The Agriculture and Food Authority Act was enacted in the 11th Parliament. And I was also privileged in that parliament to have belonged to the Committee on Agriculture, which was initially chaired by my good friend, the current Deputy Governor of Kakamega, the Honorable Savula, Ayub Savula. And later on, after we sacked him, he was the first person to be removed as committee chair in that parliament. After just some few months, we replaced him by the Honorable Nur Hassan of Mandera. Mr. Speaker, now with the benefit of hindsight, I can say that it was a mistake to have lumped together very many key sectors, sugar being included, under the umbrella of AFA. By so doing, we lost focus. And these critical sectors, especially the sugar sector, lost the attention it deserves. It deserves. Because the AFA Act killed the Kenya Sugar Board, as it was then known, and introduced what was merely a sugar directorate under AFA. Mr. Speaker, since the enactment of that act up to now, we have only seen the sugar sector going under and under, under and under. There's nothing to write home about this era of sugar directorate under the AFA framework. And therefore, I must thank the Honorable Emmanuel Wangui. The Honorable Emmanuel Wangui, the Venerable member for Navaholo, and the chair of one of our key committees, PIC. Mr. Speaker, this act, this bill, if of course it is passed and it becomes the Kenya Sugar Act, is introducing the Kenya Sugar Board with all its former powers and a redefined mandate and a more focused approach to the issues of sugar development. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I must say thank you, Honorable Wangui, for playing your part as a legislator and being part of the history in terms of reviving the ailing sugar sector that is a source of livelihood to millions and millions of Kenyans, especially in the Western Kenya region, and particularly in my own constituency of Ugunja. where for a long time we have grown sugarcane, which has been processed by Mumias Sugar Company. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to go to the details of how the sugar sector has found itself where it is currently. I don't want to go to those details. But we must admit that there are people who have been responsible for the decline in the sugar sector. Those are the people we must watch out for, even as we enact this bill. Sugar has become a cash cow for the who is who in the leadership of this country. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the sugar sector has been milked dry by people in authority, right from the executive to this house, to the management of the various sugar mills, especially those publicly owned sugar mills. There are people who have become billionaires in this country, and we know them, as a result of the milking of the sugar sector. Some of the sugar factories in Western Kenya are on their knees as a result of pilferage, of theft by persons who are known. We know them. We know them. Some of them are now in UDA. They used to be in ODM. We know them. Yeah. And they go around flaunting their ill-gotten wealth, trying to intimidate people. We must call them out. We must call them out. Mr. Speaker, just spare me from the interventions of Honorable Baya and Honorable Chieng. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Wamboka wants to give me information.
Point of order.
He has information.
Honorable Speaker, I think the Honorable Wandai is doing very well. He's doing very well, and is saying things that Kenya would like to hear. But to the extent that he starts saying that they were in ODM, now they are in UDA, those people who killed the sugar industry, is actually going out of what a respectable leader like Wandai should do. He should stick to the facts. We have not inherited corrupt people from ODM. Corrupt people in ODM still remain in ODM.
Order.
We have not.
I think your point has been heard. Honorable Wandai, proceed. No, Honorable Wandai, proceed. No, he has no capacity.
No, I've allowed him.
Proceed, Honorable Wandai.
The Speaker has declined. Just give him.
Proceed, Honorable Wandai. Many members want to speak on this.
Yeah. Just hold on, Honorable Wamboka. He will speak after me. The Honorable Speaker, I was just saying this, that some of those people who have milked the sugar sector dry, some of them were in ODM, but now they have found a natural home. They went to the natural home in Uda. And we know them, and you also know them, Honorable Baya. You know them. Yes. We are not, who is speaking? We are not going to allow, even as we enact this bill or this act, for the old practices to continue. And we must put them on notice that sugar sector employs hundreds of thousands of Kenyans, and that millions of Kenyans derive their livelihood from that sector. Mr. Speaker, to show you the extent of this corruption, the extent of this blatant pilferage, take the case of Miwani Sugar Company. Miwani Sugar Company in the Nyando Sugar Belt, and particularly in Muhoroni constituency, represented ably by the Honorable Jamuku, James Onyango Koyo. Mr. Speaker, Miwani is in a sorry set of affairs. Miwani, as we speak, even though on paper is said to be a publicly owned company, even though Miwani is perceived to be a public company, long changed hands is no longer owned by the public. The majority shareholding was stolen by people whose names are known, by the registrar of companies, which have been named. Mr. Speaker, the land, the nucleus estate, including the land on which the Miwani Sugar Factory stands, to the tune of more than 9,000 hectares. 9,000 hectares of land that previously belonged to Miwani is now in the hands of a private entity. The name is called what? Crossley Company Limited. That is owned by people who also have got interest in Kibo's Sugar Factory, are currently the purported owners of over 9,000 hectares of land that belongs to Miwani Sugar Factory, a factory that was owned by the public, land which was donated by our ancestors, our Luo ancestors. The Luo people of Miwani donated this land for the purposes of establishing Miwani Sugar Factory. How can you deprive the Luo of their land and give it to a Muhindi? How? Today I will name them. You are applauding me, so I will name them. How do you take over land that belongs to the public, the size of over 9,000 acres? I am told they were being assisted by some of my who? I don't know about that. But the fact of the matter is that unless and until the issue of Miwani Sugar Company land is addressed, there will be no reforms in the sugar sector, I can tell you. Because Miwani represents the ugly side of the sugar sector. And Mr. Speaker, you know this. You come from very close to that area. I wish you'd add me some 10 more minutes so that I can name more names. You'll pick it up from where I leave it. Honorable Koyo. If I don't speak for the poor Luo landowners in Miwani, who will speak for them? And therefore, I'm not ashamed. You can call me a tribalist if you wish. But I must speak for the helpless Luo farmers and Luo landowners in Miwani. Why do you deprive people of their land and their heritage? Mr. Speaker, another issue that is the cause of the current state of affairs in the sugar sector is the fact that these players are just a cartel. The same people who are doing the sugar milling are the same ones who are doing the importation. I am being told one of them is a Rai family. How can you be a sugar miller and at the same time a sugar importer? How? How can you? What will stop you from sabotaging the sugar subsector so that you can be given a chance to import? And in most cases, the same characters are the ones who are given licenses for importation. You can go for the records, even in this new regime. Even in this new regime, if you go to the Ministry of Agriculture, those who have been given licenses to import sugar are the same sugar barons who claim to be millers and at the same time importers of sugar. Until and unless we deal with them, there will be no reforms in the sugar sector. And therefore, as I conclude, I wish to add Mr. Mills because I was derived of my... Mr. Speaker, I want to see the EACC. Yesterday, I took a lot of my time at the EACC headquarters in Integrity Center, trying to follow up on my friend Wycliffe Oparanya's case. And I was blocked from entering the EACC. Mr. Speaker, I would want to see the EACC in the same manner it is going for the Oparanyas, to even at a higher speed, go for these fellas who have stolen money from the sugar sector, who have brought our sugar factories to their knees, who have killed the sugar sector in general. Cautious. I'm happy for the first time that we are not going to see a situation where a directorate in AFA is managing the sugar sector without the mandate or authority or the power or the capacity. Now the sugar board is being recreated. I hope it will have the mandate and the independence to play its rightful role in the management and development of the sugar sector. Thank you. I support.
The Honorable Malolo Njendi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first of all want to thank Honorable Wang this bill for three things. One is the creation of sugar board. Secondly, the issue of a sugar levy. And then thirdly, the issue of a sugar research foundation. Mr. Speaker, when I was elected to Parliament in 2013, when it comes to development in my area, Malava, most of the roads arising from the sugar levy that was being committed by these factories. And I found that their cane, it takes about 9 months, is mature for harvest. I believe with this research, sugar research foundation, we'll be in a position to have persons who will do a lot of research so that we can actually maybe start planting those breeds that can actually take maybe 8 months, 9 months, that maybe can improve even the income of farmers instead of cane staying on farms for over 2 years. I want to thank members for their positive contribution, and I want to ask Parliament really this time around to be considerate of the farmers who grow cane, because currently where the people suffering, our farmers are suffering. For example, when you come to a place, factories have been closed, and they've been closed because we've not been having very clear policy in our areas. And when we have this sugar board and when we have this bill, then we'll have actually clear policies that will guide farmers when it comes to growing of cane. Otherwise, thank you, and thank you, Honorable Wangwe, once again.
The Honorable Martin Owino, you are next on the list.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The issue of sugar is very, very emotive. Mr. Speaker, I'm a product of sugarcane farming, when sugar was sugar. Right now, when the Crop Act was enacted, as minority leader said, it was a disaster. And the sugar industry nosedived. As we speak, so many children have dropped out of school because their parents cannot afford school fee. The impact of that has not been realized and may not be realized now. That's why you have so many young people wandering about without what to do. It is true that this enacting of this bill will repeal that Crop Act of 2013, and that will usher in the Sugar Board, which have representation of farmers. So when we talk of pricing according to sucrose content, they will be a part of that decision, and that will make the sugar pricing. The other thing, as has been alluded with the honorable member, is the creation of the Research Institute. We are in a very competitive atmosphere, including commercial area, that if we don't research and come up with the right things to do, then we are lagging behind. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank this committee, especially the originator of this, Honorable Wangwe. The issue of levy as portioned, the 15%, the 4%, the 16%, which are going to support the farmers in research and all that, is well timed. Because even as we are
struggling now. Farmers do not get what they produce. They don't get any profit from what they are farming at the same time. But this will also help in credit and advances to the farmers so that they can do good farming. Mr. Speaker, one thing which I'm requesting that we look into when we come to clause 34 is the local production of sugar. I think if we do that, we will be giving a lot of power. Why don't we just specify, as it is specified for importation, 10%, which I think should go to 15%. So if it is 4, if it is 2, let us put it to the law, not giving leverage for the CS to make that decision. That is where corruption starts. So I think when it comes to the committee of the whole house, we can talk about that. The other issue, always, there is a problem in any setting, whether it's family or any community. There is always a problem. There is dispute. There will be dispute between sugarcane farmers and outgrowers, obviously, and with millers. And pricing has always been disputed. Contract farming has always been disputed. But this bill provides a tribunal which is going to preside over this. I think that is a progress. In closing, because I would like also members to be brief so that many members can finish this. If this is done, we'll have farm improvement among them, including Dewa, which is the main income is sugarcane. We'll also have farm inputs cheaper for farmers to afford. The farming operations, which is very difficult. Sometimes the weighing machine or the roads and all this will be taken care of by the board. That's a good thing. And lastly, the price stabilization. That will be a jackpot for all farmers. So with those few, I want to support this and encourage members, please be assured so that we can finish this and go to the committee of the whole house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Deputy Chieng, please be brief. As much as you can, if you can, so that many members can speak on this. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'm already brief, so I'm really quite short. Mr. Speaker, sugarcane is not just a product. Sugarcane is just not for the table. Sugarcane is a political product. Always been, all over the world. In fact, there are only 2 barons in the world. They're either sugar barons, who are the most powerful, or drug barons. So sugar is not just sugar. And that's why I want to thank the Honorable Wangwe for taking his time to work on a bill, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, I have an issue with the bill, not in terms of clauses, but in totality. That we have regulated sugar for too long, too much, giving so many people who don't even produce sugar so much say about sugar production. And even in this bill, Mr. Speaker, you don't see the voice of farmers. You don't see the voice of people who depend on sugar. Because we've made sugar management an elite exercise. Mr. Speaker, if we are to deal with sugar correctly, and at the right time I'm going to bring amendments, is that we must allow farmers to own the sugar factories. It's the only way. The idea that you're going to have Indians and some Bazungus owning sugar factories and hope that you're going to get a result, it will never happen. Convert Mumia Sugar Company into a shareholder that is owned by farmers who give it sugarcane. Sony Sugar should be owned by the farmers that are going to give that sugar company sugarcane. Miwani should be owned by the farmers, Quality be owned by the farmers, so that there's nobody in between them and their money, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, you can split hairs, we can declare sugar board, we can have so many bodies running, the tribunal, all these bodies, the CS, but if we don't make the farmer the center of sugarcane production, it will never work. Sugar importation. Let farmer societies, let farmers cooperatives be the ones to import sugar, not individuals giving licenses about quota-free, duty-free. It is a cartel-ridden industry that if we don't allow farmers to be the ones importing this sugar, again we'll be losing money. Because ask yourself, how much money is made every year when we allow duty-free, quota-free import of sugar? And why do we do it? It has no returns in it. Mr. Speaker. Sugarcane production, for example, in Nyanza, like Don Bondai has said, was done in government land. But now we've had ministers giving out land whenever they like, who gives the highest bidder, and where we are now, Mr. Speaker, in Siaya, for example, we got a huge place in Yala Swamp that Heda Muzungu that set up the Dominion Farms. Mr. Speaker, Dominion Farms alone can produce more than 1 million jobs in Nyanza. But what do? Us politicians are the ones who are the most corrupt and have caused corruption in the sugar industry. Let nobody lie to you that there's a cartel elsewhere. It is in this house, it's politicians who import sugar, use money for their campaigns. So let no one lie to you that there's somebody in ODA or in ODM. It's all politicians who are dirty and using dirty sugar money. It doesn't have sides. In fact, the sugar money has no political party sides or tribal sides. And let no one lie to you that if I was a voter from Western Kenya, I would not vote for an MP who lies every election that I'm going to sort out sugar and I don't do anything about it and take money from sugar factories. Because that's what they have done most of the time. So, Mr. Speaker, we must be honest if we want to help the sugar farmers and institute honest, serious measures to ensure that the farmer is at the center of sugar production, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand why government thinks that they should have a role in importation of sugar. They don't have a role in importing furniture, in importing cars. They have no role apart from levying fees. Why should government be poking its hands and heads every time in importation of sugar? Mr. Speaker, in Europe today, sugar beet farmers are the most subsidized. In America, the same. Sugar will always be subsidized. But in this country today, you hear, and I don't fear saying this, when you give tea farmers 4 billion, you give coffee farmers 5 billion, and then you throw to Mumia Sugar half a billion shillings and say you've helped them, you've not done anything. The sugar farmers have gotten the shortest end of the stick for a long time. You cannot be subsidizing huge, you subsidize Mira that just grows naturally in the trees, and you can't give sugar farmers what is their due. The Speaker, I sit in the Budget Committee, and we are going to demand going forward that enough money must be put to ensure that the sugar, because sugar industry, like I've said, Mr. Speaker, it's a political crop. It must not give us profits. It must not. But it must sustain the farmers. From the grassroots down there, it sustains laborers. At the factory level, it sustains technicians. At the human resource level, it sustains so many livelihoods, Mr. Speaker, and that's why all of us must have a stake in ensuring that sugarcane farming in Western Kenya thrives. You can have a population of more than 20 million people with no sugar industry. It never works. So, as we pass this bill and request Honorable Wangwe that let us not stop at this, because there has been so many laws on sugar. What will help us as people of Western Kenya is ensuring that enough money is put in the budget to deal with this. Number three is putting punitive measures on delaying payments of farmers. There are farmers who have died, committed suicide because they are not being paid. Weighing of sugarcane, transportation of sugarcane, issues that lie at the heart of sugarcane farming, Mr. Speaker. And so I want, as I finish, request that if we mean well, let's streamline research, technology, and ownership of sugarcane farms. Let's give this to farmers. And as politicians, let's lay our hands off the sugar industry. Let's look for money elsewhere. It's something like maize. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support and hope that at the right time we'll propose amendment. Thank you so much.
The Honorable Koyo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the consideration. Mr. Speaker, on the onset, I want to take this opportunity to thank Honorable Mangwe and to laud him for his consistency. Why do I say consistency? Sugar has a lot of complications, vested and contracted and protracted interests. I was lucky to be a member of this parliament. This house is the 12th parliament. And this bill we are canvassing here today, we ably canvassed it in the 12th parliament, discharged it fruitfully from this house, and took it to the Senate. Because sugar is an agricultural product, and agriculture is a devolved item. Unfortunately, and contrary to what my fellow members think, that this thing was disabled because of time, I know that because of protracted interest. Those who have vested interest in the sugar industry who are against this bill use their good connections in the Senate to stall it and ensure that it's stalled in the end. And that's why we are where we are today. So I want to thank Honorable Mongi for revising this bill, and I want to implore all members who mean well for this country that this bill means so well for the hoi polloi, who is a sugar farmer in the rural area. I represent people whose interest is sugar farming, sugar milling, and those who are working in the sugar industries. And there are so many. And when the sugar industry was booming, the livelihood was very good, and people were very happy. But unfortunately, disorder was created temporarily by the ruling Mandarin, so that they can have excuse to make quick money from sugar import. As at the time of canvassing this issue in Parliament, a disorder has been created in the sugar industry, Honorable Speaker, where a body that is supposed to be governing the running of sugar industry today, called Agricultural Food Authority, unilaterally came up with a directive without requisite room for people to discuss. Came with a directive that all the sugar factories were going to be closed, which was good enough to enable sugarcane to mature for the betterment of the industry now and in future. But unfortunately, while this was done and public factories were closed, one miller is allowed, continues with the milling exercise up to now. And this is going to create a lot of chaos in the sugar industry, more so in the Nyanda Belt. And I want to use this podium to ask AFA to make sure that they rein in those who are disregarding this directive, and to make sure that in future consideration must be given, equal consideration must be given to all participants in the sugar industry. When this bill passes, and I believe like we did last time, we'll pass it, we'll make sure it will bring a lot of improvements, because we are going to restore the sugar board. As and when the sugar board was active, the factories which are when they are challenges, they would go to the sugar board and appeal for funding, which they got easily because sugar board has got money from Sugar Development Fund, which is deducted from each time sugar deliveries are made by the farmers. But this was discontinued when the sugar board was disbanded, and with the reinvestment of the sugar board, the new will be sustained. We are with the biggest problem we have with the sugar industry today, and this I want to thank the CS. He ably talked here yesterday, the former CS. When he was there, together he came up with a task force that's led by the former Kakamega governor, Wycliffe Oparanya, and the Kisumu governor, Nyang' Nyong'o. And we ably canvassed this sugar, the who's benefiting the sugar industry, and came up with suggestions. The suggestions, one of them was we wanted the sugar industry privatized. But because of vested interest, like even today it is the case, I understand some sugar industries have been lined up. They want to be tax exempt, so that all the tax will be written off, and then they can be lined up for selling. But this, because of vested interest, this cannot succeed, because the ruling Mandarin, those who have money, have already lined up. They have already created companies offshore. The same Asians who are being used by the ruling Mandarins here have already floated companies which they have kept them outside. So they want to come back as if they are the new people who are coming to buy the same factories at throwaway prices using their high political connections. So we want this to be done. We want the common man to be involved. The question of land to be addressed properly, such that if you want to take Chemelil, you must tell us, because we gave land a donation long time ago. We gave land for the purpose of milling sugar industry. If we are no longer going to build sugar industry, or we want to change hands, the sugar industry change hands, the public who donated land must be told what is the position of their land. Either they must be bought, or they must be given shares equal to the money that they gave. Then I now want to revisit the elephant in the room. My friend and minority leader ably touched live wire here, the Miwani Sugar Company. Miwani Sugar Company was the first company that was started in this country, followed by the one in Mombasa, Ramisi, in 22. Sometimes in the Nyayo regime, the owners of Miwani Sugar industry left and fled the country, purportedly because they had debts. But sometimes we hear that some people who had vested interest, powerful people, blackmailed them, that they were involved, they financed the coup attempt in 1982. So they were supposed to be ready, and then they pumped fear in their chest and they fled away. Then later on, the company changed in miraculous happening, changed hands, and one Ketan Somaya purportedly bought the farm and became the owner. He appointed receiver managers, one after the other. And one of the receiver managers, the last receiver manager of Miwani Sugar Mills, is now the proprietor of Kibos Sugar Company. In miraculous circumstances, while he was here, some company purportedly made some supplies to Miwani Sugar Company and was not paid. When this matter came up, and Pierre Lumumba was still at the EACC, he launched serious investigations. These people could not be traced in India. They could not be traced here in Kenya. They were in hiding. Lumumba ordered and arrests were made. People were charged. Investigations were done. And they found that everything about this case was fictitious as the faces that were mentioned. And we went to court. People went to court. Up to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal then was the highest court. The Court of Appeal gave a ruling that the land belonged to the public and that the sugar board would be the debenture holder on behalf of the public. How again we hear that a lower court which is supposed to be doing arbitration for land issues, sometimes came up and overruled in Kenya, overruled Court of Appeal by Mwera, which was judgment that was done by Justice Mwera. And they want us to believe that that is now the judgment, and that we should forgo the judgment that was done by Court of Appeal while the so-called Supreme Court had not been created, which was the highest. And that case was never challenged. And they want us now to believe that the case that was adjudged by a lower court, some judge who until the other time was a drunkard around here in town, and then he was appointed, and we know the people that are using them, and we want to warn them. My ancestors donated the land. The people of Sido donated the land. The people of Kabar donated the land. The people of Kamagaga donated the land. If Honorable Wandai, my friend, if you have a friend you want to donate that land to, you have your ancestors' land, go and donate to your ancestors' land in Ugenya. Don't try this land. You have tried it. We are going to beat you. We are going to defeat you. And we are going to do everything to make sure that that land does not transfer to anybody. And that is the case. We will never allow. We will not be cowed. There are very vast interests in which time that we want to go for elections. Matters come, oh, Mara, we want this land is changing hands from here to there, or we want to create this and that. We are aware. We are seeing through all those tricks. We know who are doing them. And we have sensitized our people. Recently, a very able receiver manager who has been running the place came. They tried this couple of corrupt Asians came, they were trying to take over Miwani. Then war came, and they were thrown out. The people were thrown out. Later on, a court of law is being used to prosecute the receiver manager for having beaten his employee. And because these were very high-handed, they arrested this man in a very terrible way. He was forced to be driven all the way to Nairobi, to be charged here in Nairobi the whole night. Just demonstration of power, that they are powerful. We want know our might. Saying because this is but
the Honorable John Waweru. Let's get a voice from outside the belt also.
Mr. Speaker, some of us lodged in our cards here at 1:30 p.m. so that we can be able to contribute to this Sugar Bill 2022. And Mr. Speaker, it would be wrong for me to start contributing without first thanking the Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe. If he has ever done any job in this parliament, this is the job you came to do in parliament, Honorable Wangwe, representing your people and doing the work that they sent you here to do. Mr. Speaker, you have seen this debate has been totally emotive this afternoon, and for good reason, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the dominance of sugar as a commodity is very recent. Actually, if you look at the history of sugar, granulated sugar could have been used in India as early as the 6th century BC. However, it is only in the 19th century that the Europeans were able to bring refined sugar. And after that, the progress of sugar has been a bitter story of exploitation. It has been a bitter story of racism. It has been a bitter story of obesity. It has been a bitter story of environmental degradation, displacement of humans, and many other ills, Mr. Speaker. Kenya is not spared. That is why we find ourselves suffering what I would call the sugar curse. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to note that out of the over 12.5 million Africans who are kidnapped in the transatlantic slave trade, around half to even 2/3 of them were actually enslaved in sugar plantations. So sugar itself as a commodity has a very sweet and bitter history, Mr. Speaker, and we are caught up in that as a country. Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate Emmanuel Wangwe for bringing this very timely bill to the House that seeks to provide for the development, the regulation, and the promotion of the sugar industry, and to provide for the establishment and the powers and functions of the Kenya Sugar Board and for connected purposes. Mr. Speaker, on the onset, I'd like to say I support. Mr. Speaker, having gone through this bill, I'm seeing that in clause 23, this bill is seeking to bring up and establish the Kenya Sugar Research Institute. If not for any other reason, Mr. Speaker, I'm supporting this bill because Kenya has to catch up with the world and even overtake the world in terms of the knowledge on the development of sugar, Mr. Speaker. Our industry today is extremely archaic, Mr. Speaker. That is why our sugar is not competitive, not in the local market, not in the regional market, not in the international market. This research institute ought to tell us, Mr. Speaker, why is it that we cannot have a short cycle in the plantations of our sugar, in our sugar belts, of a sugar crop that would grow faster, is harvested faster, and is produced, is processed faster. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the members representing the sugar belt, they will tell you that if they were brought up in a sugar farm that was 10 acres, today that 10-acre farm has been cut down to the size of a handkerchief, Mr. Speaker. And we are here talking about developing sugar. Mr. Speaker, the provisions in this bill that seek towards protecting sugar land must be protected, Mr. Speaker. And this research institute must also tell us how is it that we can grow sugar productively in smaller pieces of land, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I will not prosecute this further. I will go to part 4, where on clause 29, there is a provision here that the board may appoint qualified persons to the crop inspectors, to be crop inspectors for the purposes of this act. And Mr. Speaker, in the third reading, I shall be seeking to amend this provision so that instead of reading may, it should read shall. Because this sugar inspector, as provided for in this amendment bill, in this sugar bill, Mr. Speaker, becomes a very critical individual. We should not leave it to the whims of the board to decide whether to appoint or not to appoint. I would want to make an amendment so that it reads shall, because we know the import of that legally and what it would mean. Mr. Speaker, in clause 35, there is the establishment of a fund to be known as the Sugar Development Fund. I would ask Honorable Wangwe to have a conversation with some of us who have seen funds domiciled under boards. Mr. Speaker, as you would know, in the Kika Act, under the Communications Authority, there is a fund provided for, known as the Universal Service Fund. Mr. Speaker, how boards interact with funds is a topic that needs to be studied before we take the route that we are taking. Honorable Wangwe, I will be seeking an aside with you so that we have a conversation on how to domicile this fund in a way that it does not compete for powers and does not conflict with how it operates with the board. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I've got to, and Mr. Speaker, I'd like to...
Order, Honorable. Let's hear what the Chair for Agriculture has to say. Are
Chair,
you rising on a point of order?
I would like to, yes, Chair. The Honourable Member, yes, Speaker, the Honourable Member is saying that the board is likely to manage the fund. I would like to create comfort to all members. The board will not manage any fund. There is a commodities fund into which the funds will be domiciled. The board will only be making proposals and the money will go to different users. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
And Mr. Speaker,
you may proceed.
You'll allow me, and I really appreciate the information. But Mr. Speaker, there was an issue that came up here yesterday during the debate, where maybe as a House, we might need to protect our standing orders in such a way that whenever we have an intervention, it is very clear whether it is an intervention that is a point of order, after which a member must be required to cite the standing order. If it is a point of information, I would accept or decline to get the information. And if it is a point of argument, it can wait for the time when the member gets the opportunity to prosecute their argument. Mr. Speaker,
absolutely.
I was coming to conclude, and I was coming to say that as we look at reforming the entire sugar space, it should not be lost to us that there are perennial offenders that have gotten us into the problems that we are in. The historical governance improprieties that we know of individuals who have shut down sugar companies, pilfered in these sugar companies, and are walking in this country free, scot-free, and in fact running for offices, in very high offices, Mr. Speaker. So even as we deal with this matter of the sugar bill, we also need to revisit the governance improprieties of the past so that these people are brought to book, they are brought on record, and they are persecuted if they need to be persecuted and dealt with as per the law. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as I said, sugar has its upsides and it has its downsides. We, the consumers, especially in the cities, have seen the effect of unbalanced or excessive use of sugar. Even as we form a research institute, may this research institute have a segment within the institute that informs the public on the ills of bad use of overprocessed sugar and the incumbent problems, health problems that come with that. Mr. Speaker, I can see Dr. Nyikal is in the house, and he can tell you that the morphology of human beings today, even in Kenya, has totally changed because of what we consume. So even as we are looking for the good and the benefits for the farmer, we who are in the cities are consumers. We might need to have people who inform us on the ills of overconsumption of refined sugar, and we might even want to revisit the whole idea of depending on granulated sugar rather than going for these overprocessed, bleached white sugar that has very negative effects on the people's health even as we go forward. Finally, Mr. Speaker, to the people in the sugar belt, I would like to call upon you, even as we are pushing for sugar belt, start thinking innovatively, start thinking creatively, so that if sugar becomes not a viable cash crop, you might want to think of what else you might want to do with the land that you have so that you are able to profitably utilize the little land that is left. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order? Honorable Speaker, I want to stand under Standing Order number 95. Having listened to members of this House, myself having grown up as a product of sugarcane, and indeed going through what Honorable Wangwe has put before this House, Honorable Speaker, and that we must move and jail very quickly the likes of Rai, the likes of Kidero, and I'm even told the likes of one governor from Honorable Wandai's home who has been built a house by one of these barons, Honorable Speaker. For the sake of our institutions, the Zoyas, the Mumias, I wish to call upon Honorable Wangwe. You're also on a point of order. Proceed. I wish to, therefore, Honorable Speaker, call, before you interrupted me, I said... order, member, unless you are not serious with I wish to call Honorable Wangwe to come and reply so that the likes of Rai, the likes of Honorable Wandai's governor, communicated. Jailed. Thank you. I beg to call Honorable Wangwe to reply. Honorable Speaker, thank you. Honorable, please, on your point of order, you need to move correctly that you call upon the mover to reply.
Call upon Honorable Wangwe to reply.
No. You call upon the mover.
I call upon the mover of the bill, Honorable Wangwe, MP Nabaholo, to reply. Thank you.
Honorable members, a member has risen from his place. Honorable Ruku order. This is a house of rules and order. Don't presume a seat that can also turn very fiery. That aside, our member has risen from his place and has called upon the mover to reply. And I think, is it the mood in the House that the mover be called upon to reply? Yes. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. Mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And with your indulgence, allow me to request that you just allow me to donate, even if it's 1 minute, to give to the Chair of Finance, and another 1 minute to give to the member for Lurambi, and 1 minute to give to the member for Funyula. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Wangwe, you have 5 minutes, so Finance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Wangwe, for your indulgence and giving me a minute. I specifically requested to speak on this matter because the Speaker ruled last week in a communication that the Committee of Finance and National Planning, jointly with the Committee on Agriculture, looks at several measures that have been put in place to help the sugar sector. And one of the key ones, Honorable Speaker, if you have to help these sugar sectors, these sugar companies owe KRA 65.78 billion shillings in interest and penalties. These sugar companies are owed GOK 50.14 billion shillings. And therefore, even as we think about how to help this sugar sector, if the issues of the interest and penalties that are owed to Kenya Revenue Authority, the money that has been advanced to these companies by GOK up to 65 billion shillings is not addressed, then we will not have this particular sector get to work. But as I wind up, Honorable Chair, so that I give a chance for other people to contribute on this, research is very important. We cannot expect to grow sugarcane, the same sugarcane that was grown by our ancestors, by the colonial masters, and then we expect results. So that really has to be looked at. And again, I thank you, Honorable Wangwe, for being consistent in spearheading the needs of your people. Thank you very much.
Kamala, 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't know what I can do with 1 minute, but I'll try my best. I want to support the mover, Honorable Wangwe, because this bill is going to do a lot to cushion and to help our farmers in the sugar growing zones. Honorable Speaker, I stand here not just as a member of parliament, but as a farmer and an experienced farmer, and I know the plight that has fallen upon farmers in the sugar growing areas. Honorable Speaker, with this bill, one of the things that I really support is a mechanism whereby we can stop poaching of sugarcane, because when we poach or when we have millers that are poaching cane, that means that there is lack of raw materials. Honorable Speaker, some of these factories or millers that we see as factories, they are only but go downs where there is repackaging of sugar that has been brought in, and that is what is really ailing the sugar factory. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Wangwe needs to be applauded because we have, each area has a cash crop. And for Western, where I come from, our cash crop is sugarcane, and there can be no alternative. Honorable Speaker, the creation or reintroducing back Sugar Board, the Kenya Sugar Board, that is going to address the issues of the sugarcane farmers, because without that, there is a problem. And so, Honorable Speaker, in my conclusion, I say desperation is toxic, desperation is poison, and when you say, if we are desperate, let anybody come and help us to resolve our issues, it means that you can even say, if the devil can...
Mover. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I had thought that you allow Mheshimiwa Oundo 1 more minute.
No timelines, don't allow, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wish to really thank my colleagues most sincerely. There are very many of my colleagues who took their time to really want to contribute, but they couldn't make it. But we would want to seek, Honorable Speaker, that you allow during the committee of the whole House that very strong members, like the member of Mumias, was very ready, and the rest. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I most sincerely thank my colleagues and wish to invite any of my colleagues who has any feeling of amendment. I will accommodate his amendment as long as it's within the provisions of the standing orders of the House. Otherwise, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I wish to thank and I beg to reply.
Thank you. It was in the interest of the Speaker as he directed that this bill needs to move, and you realize it's very important. That's why it's also attracting a lot of good attention in the House. The members who have not spoken on it, please, in the third reading, we shall really fix the law, so be there to now fix the law. Having said that, yesterday, a member rose from his place on standing order number 33, and it was ruled by the Speaker that at exactly 5:30, we allow Honorable Emase to move her special motion of adjournment. Remember, members, that in this motion of adjournment, every member shall have a maximum of 5 minutes to speak, and the mover shall have a maximum of 10 minutes, and there's no seconder. So is Honorable Emase in the House? Order member who is standing between the Speaker and the member who wants to speak. Honorable Emase, you may proceed to move your motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move a motion on a matter of national importance regarding the insecurity and killing of border riders and business people in Teso South constituency. Honorable Speaker, insecurity and the targeted killing of border riders has been on the rise in Teso South constituency, where frightful residents have been witnessing dastardly attacks and cold-blood murder of border riders, and in some cases, business people. Honorable Speaker, according to the reports, the gang has been targeting motorcycle riders, particularly Bajaj Boxer model, The gangs attack with crude weapons, killing them and dumping their bodies besides roads, in thickets, sugar plantations, maize plantations, and sometimes across the border in Uganda. After killing them, the gangs rob them of their motorcycles, and the survivors of the savage attacks have been left nursing threatening injuries. Honorable Speaker, all incidences involve riders who have purchased motorcycles from credit vendors who offer flexible payment plans. And incidentally, they are killed immediately they clear the loans or when they are almost through with the loan repayments. This pattern paints a probably well-coordinated collusion between some creditors and some criminal gangs to track targeted motorbikes, kill the owners, and repossess them for resale to other clients who might likely suffer the same fate as the initial owners. It is no wonder that whenever an owner of a motorcycle is killed, his motorcycle tracker is also immediately dismembered, making the motorcycle untraceable. Honorable Speaker, the spate of killings of boda riders is making business a death trap, not just in Teso South constituency, but also in other parts of the country. In the last 1 month, at least 8 people have been killed and robbed of motorcycles, while 50 others have been injured. Among those who have fallen prey to this scheme are Mr. Emmanuel Ekisa of ID number 333245538 from Ekipor Village, Mr. Samuel Ongala of ID number 2664324 from Assyrian Village, Mr. Stephen Sande of ID number 397211012 from Angorom Village. Also, Mr. John Bakwa from Angorom Ward. Mr. Bernard Ocheng from Siaya. He was also a boda in Busia. He was killed. Mr. David Ocheng from Siaya as well. Mr. Kyle Olubai from Agolot Village. He has gone missing. He went missing with his bicycle. Up to today, he has not been traced. Mr. Peter Maina, a businessman who was shot in his shop at Ojami Center. Honorable Speaker, this trend is worrying. And we cannot sit as leaders in this country and watch as young, vibrant, hard-working young Kenyans are being killed for no apparent reason. Honorable Speaker, Chapter 4 of the Constitution on the Bill of Rights is very clear. Article 26, they are the ones taking care of school fees for their siblings, putting food on the tables. And if we look at the country, the state in which we are today, statistics on unemployment by 2022 was at 5.5%. Universities continue to release graduates every year. TVETs continue to release graduates every year. Same to all other middle-level colleges. There is serious unemployment, and these young people are trying to create employment for themselves and for others. But going by what is happening, Honorable Speaker, this insecurity is not only affecting businesses, it is affecting livelihoods across the country. Honorable Speaker, as I approach conclusion, I want to say that there is a need. Probably this is the right time for the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Interior to come together and develop a proper policy framework to manage, to govern, to regulate, to administer the operations of the border sector. Because despite its growth and evolvement over time, this sector is still, the border business, they are still operating as an informal sector within the transport ministry. There is very minimum legislation to regulate the operations of the border. The border riders must be able to operate in a secure environment where their lives and the lives of their customers are protected, so that together we can build the economy. Honorable Speaker, It is really very sad, and as I conclude, I want to send my condolences to all the families that have lost their loved ones through this unwarranted, horrifying scenes that we have witnessed in Busia County. Teso being one area that has really, really felt and suffered and lost majority of them. And Honorable Speaker, I just call upon the security agencies to do something about it and think outside the box and develop certain strategies that may help to address this menace. Probably it is time that the sector is organized such that when the border is leaving the stage, probably they should have designated stages where when the border rider leaves the stage with a client, it is known whom he is carrying, whom he is ferrying. So that when he is found dead, his body is collected the next morning, it is known who was he carrying, whom was he ferrying, and to which destination. At this time where we have technology, we have the phones, we have the apps, it is possible to record everything and send to the office so that it is known who was being carried at what time to which destination. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I now call upon...
No, we don't need a seconder. You beg to move.
I beg to move, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. To have the first bite on this one is Honorable Undo.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me opportunity. And I was going to complain bitterly because my card has always been on top all the time. And for obviously by either an act of God or deliberate mechanization, I was always being skipped. Honorable Speaker, let me laud my fellow member of parliament from Busia County for bringing this timely motion to debate matters of national interest. Honorable Speaker, the spate of killings in Busia County as a whole is not confined to Teso South alone. It cuts across the entire Busia County. It's an alarming situation that we, the leaders, have attempted to address, but not much success, Honorable Speaker. Busia Town is known to be the home, the originator of Boda. Before then, we used to have bicycles, which were called then bicycles. If you never boarded and took a ride in a bicycle, you had not, in quotes, arrived. And if you never owned a bicycle, Honorable Speaker, you are not considered a man enough, and no girl would ever accept to talk to you if you didn't give her a ride on a bicycle. And I'm sure Honorable Emase got swept away on her feet with a ride on a bicycle. Honorable Speaker, the boda industry is an industry, is a sector that requires a lot of attention. I remember, Honorable Speaker, the last regime, the Jubilee government, made an attempt to bring sanity in the boda sector, to regulate for purpose of security and orderly conduct of the business. However, Honorable Speaker, the process was politicized by the hustler dynasty narrative that essentially left them the way they are now. Honorable Speaker, they're vulnerable. A motorcycle with a passenger whom you have no record where this passenger is coming from. So therefore, many times, they are left on their own device. There are many, they cannot be policed altogether. And I totally agree with the Honorable Mary Emase that there must be some kind of technology that we can allow them to be traced. For example, if you book an Uber or a Bolt or the taxi hailing, this has got an option, share location or share the trip. They must embrace that particular aspect. But Honorable Speaker, just to put the matter in perspective, the issue of Busia is not a transportation issue. It's a complicated matter to do with, number one, Honorable Speaker, smuggling. The border riders are the ones who are being used to smuggle. So many times when the deal goes bad, who is the first victim? The carrier of the merchandise or the illegal smuggled product. And Honorable Speaker, this is done at the protection of the police in Busia Town, protection of the Ngao officers, starting with the county commissioner and county commander. So we cannot come here as members of parliament, try to hide matters under the carpet instead of telling what the truth as it is. Honorable Speaker, we must address that manners. Citizen TV, and I think even NTV, aired the story very well. And of course, as the beneficiaries, they are given their points, they are given part of the loot from smuggling, the provincial, the security organs at the Busia border point close their eyes. And the same applies, Honorable Speaker. It's not even contraband goods from Uganda, including bang. Is transmitted through the border using the border riders. Honorable Speaker, it's a matter that needs to be addressed. I sympathize. I feel sorry. Now the businessman who was killed and the killers were traced all the way in Turkana using a motorcycle that they drove all the way from Busia to Turkana. It's a security issue. We must address this matter directly to the security team at the county level. Honorable Speaker, many times these border motorcycles are actually stolen. In the process of stealing the motorcycles, whenever the raiders try to defend themselves, they get injured, they get killed. Honorable Speaker, we are still nursing about 10 border riders in Funyula constituency who resisted the stealing of the motorcycles by these thugs. And Honorable Speaker, many times these motorcycles end up in Uganda. And that's why the other day, with my people, carried out mob justice and killed somebody, Sufugwe, in Budalangi, who used to steal the motorcycles, take them to Sufugwe, and transport them to Uganda. So, Honorable Speaker, Mary Mase sits in the government. She must be in the forefront on talking to those guys who stopped us doing and taking on a peaceful mandamano, instead of wasting following us with us flares on our heads. Let them.
I don't think Mary Mase is a security officer. Next to speak on this is Honorable Marwa Kitamaya. Is in the house? That means that this list may not be correctly be in place, and therefore let me ask the Honorable proceed. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much, because I was feeling
there is a challenge there.
A bit uncomfortable because I came here so early, Honorable Speaker. But nevertheless, thank you so much, Speaker. First I would like to thank my sister, who is also my neighbor, and quite a very able MP from Teso South, for bringing up, highlighting issues that affect our border, Honorable Speaker. Border industry is a very, very key industry indeed, because it accounts for a very huge transactions financially in this country. These are people who are always used when people feel that they want to achieve their own interests, but immediately after that, they are left to rot. These are the same people who help us, Honorable Speaker, during campaign times, during mobilization of our rallies, if we want to disseminate information to the people, these are the people who help us. Borders also play a very key role. Lynched by this border, of course I believe in the rule of law, but at times people who live by fire, they must also be extincted by fire, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is so sad, very, very, very sad, what is happening lately in this industry. These young men and sometimes also women are losing their lives terribly, Honorable Speaker. And on this, I want to urge our security apparatus, don't just focus on Changa and Busa in the village. Don't just focus on small things that don't make sense in the village, Honorable Speaker. We want you to come and instill security and the villagers' security in our towns, Honorable Speaker. The security agencies are now focusing on things that don't matter. And I wished the majority leader, who at times speaks carelessly, when he was telling most of us yesterday that our members are not here. I wish he was also here so that he takes this to the government
Honorable Member,
of William Ruto.
Don't address a person who is not in the House and cannot defend himself. Proceed.
But he was also addressing members who were not in the House yesterday, Honorable Speaker, that they must tell this government to prioritize security matters. They must tell the government to protect these young people who are losing their lives every day, Honorable Speaker. That they must stop hitting people who are demonstrating for the rights. They must direct those guns. They must direct those bullets. They must direct those cannons to the real culprits, people who are robbing innocent Kenyans of their lives, Honorable Speaker. I want the Minister for Interior to refocus his energies, to sit down with his people, to ask themselves if they are doing justice to this country. The might with which they land on people who are demonstrating constitutionally, Honorable Speaker, is amazing. That is the might we want them to land on these thieves, on these killers, on these drug peddlers who are killing our innocent young men and women, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Emase, it is indeed a very good motion you've brought, and it should not end here. We should move and demand for answers from this government. We should move and demand action from this government. Our young men and women are dying, and are dying very badly. Shame on the security system of this country. Shame on this government that cannot help their people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support Honorable Emase. Indeed, wewe unaweza. Thank you so much.
Who are found maybe operating out of time, but they are not giving it a very, very serious approach in protecting them, because these border borders do not choose to be border borders by them. Assist to us, many other people, to traverse areas where the ordinary vehicles could not be able to reach. But you see, we must come and be alive to the fact that criminal gangs have invaded the border sector. So the government agencies should be able to move in and be able to particular country. But what can we do as a house? We have the national industrial, and latching on Honorable Emase's motion, we need to develop a policy and legislative framework, and we even have laws that are supposed to govern the border sector, so that we do not have criminal gangs invading this particular infiltrating this particular border sector, so that the innocent borders are losing their lives because of criminal gangs who have invaded this particular sector. We will be urging, and we'll be moving on and maybe liaising up with Honorable Emase, that we conduct serious public participation so that we can be able to come up with a legislative framework that should be able to guide the operations of the border sector, so that we don't only want to regulate the border sector by virtue of licensing. We need to involve the MAP and create a legislative framework where the border people can feel they are part and parcel of this country, they are people who are earning a genuine living, and their lives and property is secured. We need also to consider, moving into the insurance. Most of these border people who have died, they have left families destitute. They have left children who are not going to school. People have been orphaned. People have been widowed. We need to move into maybe create a mandatory insurance framework so that if the eventuality happens, we need to have a pool from which these families can actually be able to be compensated, resulting from these particular misfortunes which they never invite to themselves. Honorable Speaker, I wish to support this particular motion by Honorable Emase and say one thing: the security agencies should be able to pulling up not only in harassing borders, but in involving them in security matters so that we can be able to protect ourselves and protect life and property. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Geoffrey Ruku. Or you are not ready to speak on this?
I'm ready, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Border industry, Mr. Speaker, or sector, is a major sector in the Republic of Kenya. And these are young men, and also we have a few of young women who are in this industry, and they are doing a good job to ensure they put food on their table, and not only food on their table, to ensure they take care of their families, and to ensure that their kids, they go to school out of this business, Mr. Speaker. And when we have that kind of level of insecurity in this sector, and more so in the constituency, which is represented by the honorable member, insecurity anywhere is insecurity everywhere, Mr. Speaker. This is something which needs to be taken with a lot of seriousness to ensure this industry not only thrives, but support livelihood of the families of the Republic of Kenya. We know, Mr. Speaker, the end of state and the president is very keen in ensuring this sector of border is well entrenched, and the cost of running business within the border industry is reduced. And that's why the e-mobility is a key element which is championed by Kenya Kwanza government. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the security arms, the investigative arms of this country must make sure all the border businessmen or young people in this sector are taken care of. I know in my constituency, the mighty better north, we have quite a number of young men in this industry. And these young men are doing tremendous job in supporting their families, Mr. Speaker. Border is stolen and killed. This parliament should be in a position to invite the IG, the Inspector General of Police, to come and explain what he is trying to do to ensure there is no heinous crime within that sector. Mr. Speaker, I know this sector also is extremely invaded by unscrupulous businessmen who are leading young men what you may call shyrock, Mr. Speaker. And when the border rider or the owner is unable to pay, or he gets rate within a week to pay some of these shyrock very high interest loans, the kind of treatment which these young men are facing is extremely bad treatment, inhuman treatment, Mr. Speaker. And we should also, this House should be able to come up with a regulation, with a directive that no businessmen within the sector of border who are charging the young men